Woo! Hello. Hi, it's me, Camila Rose, and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to do my recent reads for the month of October. I'll be real honest with y'all, I haven't had a lot of time to read because I've been so busy, as you'll see in all of the vlogs, but I do want to share some of the things that I have read. I don't have a full recap of everything that I've read first or second week in November. But let's start off with, I read The Dirty 30, Southern Tales of the Supernatural by Patricia McKissack. This book was so fun. It was a super easy read. It was on my TBR. I talked about how it's, I believe, a middle grade book. And it just goes over a couple of different Southern tales, like folk tales and legends. And it was so entertaining. But it was also sad because a lot of these stories were like, the first story is run around a plantation owner, his son, and then the child that he has with a black woman who he eventually brings this child back to the plantation, who has to work underneath the son that he has with a white woman. And then the son that he has with the white woman never likes the other son because he is frail. He looks like his mother. He's not the most attractive. He's not the most, stereotypical strong man. And then the half brother, he looks like what people would expect to be someone who is the master over the plantation, and actually ends up becoming pretty much like the foreman or the person who's right underneath him. Now the father, he always favors the other son, and it is very clear that had the other son been full white, he would have been given rulership and ownership over the plantation, over the other son. And so there's a bitterness and a rivalry there. Not a real rivalry because the half son is not involved. He doesn't have a problem and would have been probably open to being friends with his half brother had his other brother not been so resentful of him. And so eventually he grows older and the half son is already free. His mother was free, the half son is free. And so the son of the plantation owner, he tries to sell his half brother. And they're like, well, you can't because he's free. And he's like, well, what does that matter? I'm not going to get in trouble for it. Well, then sell them to his wife and their child instead. Like, that'll be how I'll pay them off. And so the half brother is just like, I cannot believe you would do this to me. Like, I know you dislike me, but I didn't think it would be this far. And then they run off in the middle of the night. And so they're running off along the Underground Railroad. They reach this cliff and this point, and they're being chased by the dogs and chased by his half brother and the other people who are hunting them down. And there is, in the story, as you read the end, there was this cave that you could jump across and pass this waterfall, and you could hide in the cave. And then the person who was helping with the Underground Railroad would come in and retrieve them and take them to the next stop. So the legend was, and the hope was, is that the half brother and his wife and child were going to be able to get, into the cave and hidden and then escape to a free state. But then we learned that the person who ran that route was like, I was never able to tell him about the cave that was hidden behind the waterfall. And then when they had jumped across, they were lost in the mist. And then there were these 2 or 3 birds that flew off into the sky. So it was thought that if they didn't survive, then they became birds, a mythical story around what would happen to them and their souls as they became free, whether that was they were freed through escaping to the north, or their souls were freed from having to be within the bodies and within having to deal with the system of slavery at that time. So they're good, entertaining stories. They are short, but there's some sadness to them. But there's quite a few. This is so fascinating. The site is the Justice one, where there's this white man who owns a gas station. He's not able to pay for it. He's jealous of this black man who's doing really well, killing the owner of the gas station, and then blames the black man that he dislikes, and then they chase him down through the Ku Klux Klan and they kill him. And then the black man comes back and haunts him. 1159, where it's about porters, the trained porters who were all black and have formed a union, and how the 1159 came for everyone because it would pick up individuals when they were ready to pass. That one's a great story. Like, they are good stories. The Woman in the Snow, where they ran a new bus route after they had done the bus boycotts, and now the buses were integrated. And the bus driver didn't want to pick up this Black woman on the new bus route, and it was snowing, and she had her child, and she ended up passing away in the snow with her child. And now the woman would show up on the first snow, and there was the first time a Black bus driver, and he stops and he picks her up and he takes her to the hospital where she had asked the original white bus driver to take her. And then after that, it was kind of like her soul was able to find peace. Just so good. So many good stories, and they were really quick to read. There's one about a little girl who wants to have a brother, and so she goes through this experience where she gets the brother, but she wanted a baby brother, a younger brother. She gets an older brother, and this older brother gets all the things that she was really experiencing. Her bike, her love from her family, and she was not happy with it. But it taught her what being a good older sibling would be like. And so once she had learned that, now she was going to have a younger sibling, and she would be a better older sibling. Like, there's good stories. The cats here, they have these lovely morals and just like old school folklore and fairy tales. I really, really enjoyed this. Boo Mama, where this young Black woman loses her child in the woods, and then the child ends up coming back about a year later, and it's run across the Sasquatch person. It's just absolutely fascinating. There is one, the Gingy, I believe is how you say it, that was scary to me. I was like, oh, this is a little frightening. The Chicken Coop Monster, which is a story from the author's childhood. This is a great read. It's very quick. I think I finished it in maybe 2 days because I read half of it and then I read the other half while I was traveling. I totally 1000% recommend this one. And then my other book that I've been reading recently, as you can see, it's a thickums, but it is a dual novel of Dracula and Frankenstein. I finished Dracula. I'm currently working on Frankenstein, so I can go see the movie. I've seen the new one on Tuesday, so I'll have a video up about the movie and the book. But just to talk about Dracula very quickly, I enjoyed it. I will say, I definitely thought that this is a book of its time, and there's nothing wrong with that. The female characters were very interesting. I felt like in the movies, because I've kind of watched the movies, I'll be real honest with y'all, I've kind of watched them in passing while I'm doing other things. And I haven't seen the new one, but I have less of a desire to watch Dracula films. I don't necessarily like the stories that have Mina in a relationship and sensual, or she's a reincarnation of his prior wife or past wife or something. I think it's interesting, and I think it reflects on society's desires and what we're interested in, and the difference between kind of what the story, this original story, is trying to convey and what we are currently experiencing. So the new Dracula, I have not seen. It's not supposed to be available, I believe, in the US, but apparently you can watch it on, one of those random sites. I will probably watch it. I've heard a lot of different opinions about it. I've heard some that say it's amazing. It seems like the book talk and booktube girlies might really like it. The scenes have been very popular on book talk. I've heard from some folks that it's kind of cheap. I don't find the main character who's playing Dracula to be very attractive, so there's that. I would just have to see. I enjoyed Nosferatu, the new one, and I think that it was an interesting way to explore the idea of Dracula as this demonic character who has lost access to their soul and cannot receive any type of retribution or being saved from an endless sense of life, having to steal life from other people and be able to die because of either Dracula as a vampire, which has lost its soul, or Dracula as a vampire who has become possessed by a demon who is then using these bodies that have no life and have no soul in order to be able to run around and do whatever the demon wants to do, which is, to possess other people and to gain power. So I found Nosferatu to be an interesting version of that, and I enjoyed how it played the main female character. I think her name is Lena or something. I know it's not Mina. As her kind of inviting in any type of entity who is so desperate for some type of attention, affection, and love that she's like, just anyone who can hear me, please come and respond to me. And she invites that in, right? Because that's one of the tropes which has been popularized by this version of Dracula, that vampires must be invited in order to enter a premise. And in the same way that Nosferatu had to be invited in, she called out to it, and it was Nosferatu, or the demon that possessed Nosferatu, that was able to then respond to her invitation. So I thought that that was an interesting perspective. So I've watched, is it Bram Stoker's Dracula the film? I love the actors and the characters. I'm just not, and I think that the story was probably, entertainment-wise, amazing. Super entertaining. The story was fascinating. I still am a little about it, but I think it was a closer probably portrayal of what it sounds like than the newer one. And then I have watched Dracula Untold, and Dracula Untold, to me, honestly, it's one of my favorite. And I haven't even gotten into stereotypes and racism and how that is portrayed through how they are treating this individual who is from a different country, and how they excuse a lot of his very unusual, very suspicious behavior. Here's my cat, say hello. Like, no love bugs. That's, something is wrong here. Just the jump to be like, oh, evil, like, let's just get rid of him. He's totally evil, obviously. Not even getting into that. We'll see what the new one looks like once I'm able to watch it. I also found it to be honestly a little bit boring. I thought it took them way too long to figure out what's going on. I was like, catch up, y'all. Even if it was that they were unfamiliar with the idea of a vampire, which I also thought was interesting, because when you watch Sinners, she is very quickly like, oh, it's a haint. And she's like, oh, it's a specific type of haint. It's a vampire. These folks are just like, what? What's going on? And I'm like, well, maybe, first time they're ever really encountering this type of creature or hearing about it in this manner. So I gave them, give them some grace for that. Frankenstein, I'm about halfway through and I really am enjoying it. I think it's much more interesting and much more entertaining. It moves much quicker. And so I'm having a much better time reading that. And I should be done with that by Monday, if not Monday, Tuesday. And then I'll go see the new movie. So I'm going to end here. And maybe I'll do like a rewatch of all the Dracula films that I can find, and do another little like review of all the different ones and comparisons of them, and talk about like the different things going on, just like I did with the Beauty and the Beast films. I do think that our interest in monster culture and monster theory, which I told you is also on my TBR, is fascinating, especially in these times and with all the things going on. So that's going to be my recent reads. I hope you have a wonderful, beautiful week, and I will see you all on Friday for week 18 update for my Insane 185. And like, comment, subscribe. See you later. Bye-bye.